What's going on, growers? It's James Brigioni coming to you live from Jersey. I'll tell you what, it's another cold, windy day here. That's not gonna stop me and Tuck from getting out here, getting some work done, and having fun while we're doing it. I wanted to bring you all along and show you some tips for getting better asparagus harvests. Let's go! Here he is, the most loyal guy, out here no matter what the weather is. He'll even try to come out in the rain. I gotta keep him out sometimes because he just loves spending time out here. We both do. But as some of you know, we've got a few asparagus patches. This is one I put in when I first started gardening. This is one of the first perennials I put in because asparagus is a perennial, which means it's gonna come up, multiple years, not something you have to replant every single year, which is super convenient because, you're constantly gonna be getting food. If for some reason you can't get the work done in the spring or something, you're always gonna be able to rely on this stuff. So, as you can see, there's a nice patch here, and it's actually not typically grown like this. Most people plant asparagus along the edges of the garden, which is a smart thing to do. But like I said, this is what I planted when I was new. So I want to give you guys some information. So when you get asparagus in, you can do it the right way the first time. We've got this planted next to a fruit tree, which also isn't a common thing to do. I'll talk a little bit about more on that in the future, and it's something I think you should do. We have another patch of asparagus planted here in the front corner of the food forest. And this is typically how it's grown. Some of you might not notice it, but this is what the asparagus looks like when it leaves out. More fern-like, and you can see at the base, here's the asparagus, what they look like from the store. And this is very necessary to allow them to grow out like this because they need to photosynthesize and then take all that energy and put it back into the roots so they can grow strong crowns, strong roots, so you can produce more fruit. So as you can see, there's some red berries here too. And these are actually the seed of the asparagus. So this is the female plant. When it comes to asparagus, there's both male and female. So typically a lot of times people will cut out the females so the asparagus doesn't waste its energy and its growth hormones on producing seed, but it focuses more on the roots. Asparagus are one of those plants that, in my opinion, everybody should be growing. For one thing, they're easy to grow, especially when they're established in the ground. There's just a few things you want to keep up on if you want better harvests. I suggest you get your asparagus in this year too, this spring, because it typically takes about 2 to 3 years to get a decent harvest, but once they start coming in, you can expect them to produce for you for like 25, 30 years, which is amazing. Another thing about these asparagus is when you grow them yourself at home, organic, like this, and you don't even have to cook them. The ones in the store, they're often woody and hard. If you don't cook them, they're really not that good. But these ones, fresh from the garden, there's no need to cook them. I just snap them, bite into them, they're juicy, they're soft, they're not stringy, as long as you get them at the right time. The reason asparagus take about 2 to 3 years from bare root to really start producing is because the first couple years, you want them all to allow to grow up fern-like this, so they can focus all their hormones on that crown. This way, in the future, you can get big harvests. It's basically just like investing. If you take too early in the beginning, you're just gonna, in the long run, hurt your harvest. This bed has been in for, I think, 4 years or so, and as you can see, it's nice and thick. And I know we're gonna get good harvest next year because we invested in that root. These roots go super deep, like 15 feet down. They're able to mine up some kind of minerals and other kinds of things that other plants can't. So not only are you getting a delicious harvest, but you're also getting different kinds of minerals and things that other plants can't give you. That's one of the reasons I love growing them as well. And once they are established, in the beginning, you can usually harvest for about 2 to 3 weeks typically. Then once they really get established, you can harvest some of them for up to 8 weeks. Some of that depends on variety though. So why are we out here now, and what can we do to ensure a better harvest? Now that we're late in fall, you can see a lot of the ferns have dying back, so they're not really photosynthesizing anymore. They're not taking any sun in and giving that down to the root, allowing that to expand and get bigger. So we want to come through and cut some of this back. One of the reasons is we want to cut them back down at the ground level is because a lot of these ferns could actually be in the stem harboring some asparagus beetles. So we don't want to just allow them to live in there and then attack our plants next year. I mentioned that asparagus grow better in cold climates, but you can grow them in warmer climates. The thing is, in the warmer climates, you really want to make sure you come out here in fall or in winter and cut them back, because when you cut them back, this will also help force them to go into dormancy, and they have to go into dormancy in order to produce next year. Now I'm going to be cutting these asparagus down at ground level. In a book I love, and I suggest it to all you, Carrots Love Tomatoes, they mention how tomatoes are actually great to plant next to your asparagus because those tomatoes can actually help prevent some of the pests for asparagus. And also, after asparagus are basically finished, you can plant the tomatoes around it and they'll benefit one another, which is pretty convenient. Another thing I read is that asparagus are basically deer resistant. So if you have a lot of deer in your area, then this is something they really shouldn't bother, they shouldn't worry about. Maybe you could even do like, you know, a big asparagus, wrap the asparagus around a section to try to protect some stuff in the center. And we're just going to continue to cut all these down and remove them.
When I look into the face of my enemy, I see my brother. I see my brother.
You could throw these in the compost pile if you want, but as you know, we already got our compost pile started. Maybe we'll save it for the next one. But if you do compost these, you're gonna make sure it goes through a hot compost process. You're not just gonna wanna lay these down, because again, they could be harboring some of those asparagus beetles, and you don't wanna be creating a perfect environment for those asparagus beetles to come and ruin your future harvest.
When I look into the face of my enemy, I see my brother.
Now that we've got this section cut down, it's a good idea to come through with a little compost down and a little mulch down also. What this will do will not only help kind of protect them if you're in a cold area like me in the winter, these crowns, but it will also help feed your plants. The only thing is, come spring, it could actually slow down the new spears coming up, because those spears come up dependent upon the ground temperature. If you wanted to and you wanted those early spears, you could pull back the mulch though, allow the ground to heat up more and have those asparagus come through, and then bring the mulch back around it if you want to. Now I'm going to grab some black leaf mulch, which is essentially just finished leaf compost. Lay a little of that down. Then I'm going to put some wood chips over top, not thick, but just enough. And I'll show you guys how I'm doing that. And I also wanted to say, some of these things like this, you know, these little things, they may not seem like big deals, but everything accumulates. When everything comes together, it makes a big difference, because there isn't anything that doesn't matter. So it's those little small things that come together and allow you to have a food forest, 2 food forests, when you put all the work in, because all labor is profit. And I also want to encourage you guys, just like the asparagus are, to get those perennials in, because those are the things that are going to have a great foundation for you. If I never planted anything again, I'd still be getting a lot of food from back here. But the annuals, I love planting them because there's so much variety and they're so much fun. Like I mentioned, first we're going to start with the black leaf mulch. And this stuff I actually just get for free from the local recycling center, which is super fortunate. So we're just going to lay this in, lay this down. I'm just going to remove some of these leaves because I want this stuff to get down first, get feeding, and then we'll put some wood chips, like I said, right over top. I'm not going to go crazy with this.
See my brother.
Tuck's always here having fun and always part of it, as you can see. Hit the like button and throw some comments down for Tuck. And let me know if in the spring, if you want me to plant more asparagus in a different section, show you how I got them started and how I got them planted, so you can have a nice patch just like this if you don't have one already. Another important thing is, when they're young and they're growing, you want to make sure you're weeding this section. You don't want any competition with this, because as you know, if you don't put mulch down, if you don't, plant something like asparagus or something else, weeds will grow. That's just how it is. A garden that isn't tended will grow weeds. It's not going to grow and produce excellent, delicious Honeycrisp apples. You got to put the work in. You got to plant that, and you got to tend to it. Not baby it, but I call it like, help raise it like you would a child, guiding it with tough love.
When I look into the face of my enemy, I see my brother.
You'll notice these are pretty small wood chips. This is the triple ground. This isn't that really thick stuff.
Forgiveness is the garment of our courage, the power to make the peace we long to know.
Some of you will probably ask, James, can we grow asparagus from seed? Yep, absolutely you can. The only thing is, like I mentioned, from a crown that you order, like from a bare root one, it's going to take 2 to 3 years to produce. If you want to do it from seed, it's going to take even longer. So if you have the time, you can grow your own asparagus from seed. I just prefer doing it this way. And you can get and grow white asparagus too if you want. Those are just ones that don't have any light, so you're gonna have to restrict the light from them as they start coming up. There we go, all finished. As you can see, this isn't rocket science, but nothing in gardening really is. It's more about consistent applied effort, I think. And knowing some of the right things to do, this way your effort and your labor really pays off. Like I mentioned though, all labor is profit because you're always learning something even if you're doing it wrong. Let me take you back to the other asparagus patch planted underneath the peach tree because there's a few things I wanted to talk about. One of the things was the reason I think they're both thriving and doing so well. Some of it has to do with where the roots occupy the space. So this asparagus plant, like I said, has super deep roots, like 15 feet deep. And this peach tree has more like spreading roots. I mean, they go deep too, but still, I believe they occupy different space, so they're not really competing too much. If this is something you wanted to do though, one thing I believe is important is you want to put the fruit tree in and allow that to get more established before you really put the asparagus in. You don't want huge competition with that fruit tree because it could cause some damage. And when it comes down to it, you know, in my opinion, we're going to want to focus on that fruit tree more than the asparagus. The asparagus can really go anywhere, but I've noticed these have been great companions for me. So if it's something you guys want to try out, I think it might be worth it. Yeah, you can see how thick and how well this asparagus patch is doing. So I don't think the tree or the asparagus are having any negative effects on one another. I'm gonna come through and do the same thing that I did with the other patch. Cut these down, put the black leaf mulch and some wood chips over top. Look what this guy got. Looks like he found himself another carrot he dug up. So that's a pretty cool sight in my opinion. You got this guy harvesting his own carrots, eating them, sitting on a nice bed of strawberries. Right above that though, got the grapes growing. It feels good. I feel blessed to be able to be out here, to be able to share and to connect with all of you, and also to just feel connected. If it wasn't so cold out, maybe I could take my shoes off or something and walk around. But Tuck's enjoying that carrot.
Open up our eyes to see the wounds that bind all of humankind.
That's today's video, growers. Thanks for watching. Hope you got some value out of it. And I hope you feel encouraged to get out there and plant your own asparagus this spring. And if you do, in a few years, I think you're gonna be thanking me. When you're out there harvesting them, there's nothing like it. Nothing like those fresh, delicious spears, especially when they're homegrown. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to check us out on Steam It and ring the notification bell. Me and Tuck are gonna be continuing to post all season, having fun doing it. We hope you follow along. We